Oh, there we
Recording. I think it's all set.
go. All right, good deal. I think we can get started. Thank you all for joining us Friday afternoon. Happy Friday to everybody. We obviously issued an RFP for a climate and sustainability plan. The city of Norwalk is looking to do a citywide plan, looking at their overall sustainability, but also with a focus on climate change and adaptation and assessment. A lot of the pertinent details are obviously in the specific document, which I'm sure you've all had a chance to read. But today what we wanted to do is kind of just really open it up. We'll talk a little bit about our perspective on the whole project, and then open it up to questions from you. If you will note that we kept the RFP pretty open-ended in terms of scope. We weren't overly prescriptive, and that was by design. What we're trying to do, we've obviously come together as a group in recent months, and it was actually listed in the community resilience building report that was included in the packet to sit down as a community, kind of ascertain where we're at, within the context of all the various hazards that are affecting Norwalk, and also where we want to be. And there was a number of recommendations that came out of that report. There was actually the details in terms of how that was structured are included in the document, but really it was a workshop led with us and the Nature Conservancy and the city and city leadership and all the department heads with climate change, resilience, and sustainability in mind. We followed a process that the Nature Conservancy, some of you may be familiar with, employs to do a sort of hazard mitigation workshop and identifying hazards and potential solutions and priority actions. So what we wanted to do is basically use that as a starting point. There's really what I like to refer to as almost a letter to Santa in terms of all the things that we want from a climate change perspective. And what we're really trying to do is expand upon that planning work. Our office, the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency, is currently staffed as the staff for the ad hoc Committee for Sustainability and Resilience that the Common Council has convened. And you'll note that there is a lot of political support for this. There's a lot of interest in advancing this plan. So it's a really timely and important effort for the city. So what we're hoping to do is basically have a consultant come on board, take a look at that CRB report, look at all the things that we pulled together, tell us what we may have missed, do some analysis to show us sort of why we're doing certain actions and what we should be focused on. And then I think one key point that I think this might differentiate maybe some of the work that you all have done in the past, and you'll note that in the beginning, in the community resilience building report, there's a real focus on, how does the city actually need to organize itself to implement these solutions from an administrative capacity. So that might be, might require you all to work with other partners or people that are more focused on organizational development, but that's going to be a key thing that we want to have answered at the end of this report. In addition to some more technical items and the overall long-term planning that we're hoping to achieve. So that's sort of my 30,000 foot view approach to this. But really today, what we wanted to do is take questions from you all. The fact that it is so open-ended, I'm sure it might elicit a number of questions. And it's really time for us to help answer those. And then, really going to open it up to you. So if you want to raise your hand, if you're able to in the Zoom function, that's probably the best way to go about it. You have a number of people here today. I can start calling on whoever has questions. Is there no questions, or is it just the functionality that I'm asking for? You can also just blurt out if you want to. That's also an option.
Yeah, I have a question. I didn't know if you had a preferred vendor already in mind.
No, this is just an open procurement.
Hi, this is Katie Keeman from BSD Group. I didn't notice anything specifically. It talks about being a sustainability plan, but I didn't see anything specific around, greenhouse gas quantification, emissions, tying specific emissions quantities to different strategies. Is that an expectation?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some technical element, but that wouldn't be the focus. I think, we're all pretty much on the same page in terms of the existing conditions that are affecting us. And in terms of the more scientific level analysis, I don't think that's really what the city's looking for at this time.
Okay.
Maybe subsequent reports possibly, but I think you can rely on existing data that's out there to kind of talk about the quantitative impact that it might have to make some of these changes and these, employing mitigation strategies. But in terms of actual assessment and the micro level analysis, that's not really in the scope, I think.
Okay.
at this time.
And maybe just to follow up to clarify, the RFP read to me much more hazard mitigation, climate adaptation. That seems to be the emphasis. And you know, if there are greenhouse gas emissions reductions, you know, that could be co-benefits as part of that, you know, that would be sort of a secondary focus.
That's the correct interpretation.
Perfect. Thank you.
Amber, I think I see your hand up.
Yeah, hi, Brian. Thanks for hosting this. Amber Greeny here from Caramita. In our experience, we found community engagement to be a really important key in climate action planning and just getting the community on board and feeling like they own the plan as well. So can you talk a little bit about kind of what your hopes are for level of community engagement involved in this process?
Yeah, definitely. And that came up in the community resiliency building process. And I think it was more framed in terms of education and how do we get everyone on board and seeing the value of these improvements. And I think that's through this plan. I think that's going to be one of the biggest benefits of the whole, you know, planning process is that discussion. So we definitely are looking for sessions, obviously, to be included in any proposal and really looking to you to recommend what you think is the best way to engage within that context. So there's been ideas for like listening sessions, you know, doing things throughout the community, not just in certain neighborhoods, but maybe also once the scope develops further, targeting specific neighborhoods that might need a little bit more attention given the impacts that they're facing. That answer your question? Do you have a follow-up? I see your hand's still up. That might just be a Zoom feature.
Just a functionality. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
no problem.
answered my question. Thanks.
Great. Any other specific questions regarding the procurement process or anything like that?
Hey, Brian, this is Claire Cantor from Lotus Engineering and Sustainability. I know the RFP asks for us to include a proposed budget, but do you all have a limit to that or some number in mind?
We don't have a current number established. We're really trying to figure out, you know, what the best approach is, and then we'll take it from there.
Got it. Thank you.
I had a similar question on schedule.
Yeah, so the schedule, I mean, everyone is fired up. We want to get this moving as soon as possible, but I would estimate a 9 to 12 month planning period, if, you know, to be realistic.
Great.
But we're open to other options. If you've all found that there's a condensed strategy or a different approach that works quicker and better, again, that's why we kept it pretty open-ended. So you're not going to be penalized for bringing creativity to the discussion.
Hey, Brian, did I miss it's low price wins?
No, this isn't just based on price.
Sorry, I'm having trouble finding my hand raising functionality. Noah Slovin from SLR Consulting. With the schedule question, the 9 to 12 month planning period, are you hoping to have something 9 to 12 months from now, or you're imagining whenever you get the project started, that's the time frame?
Yeah, that's probably the time frame from contracting once we get the project started. So I would base it off of that. And we also are working on some things internally to be running concurrent to all of this. You know, we want to be hitting the ground running as we're going. Certain things that are just more low-hanging fruit, I guess, that we've identified. So we'll be working together with the selected vendor to figure out how those interface as well. And we're still working on that list, but we'll be able to share that later. So to answer your question, 9 to 12 months from contract date.
Hey, Brian, this is Helen Peterson from 2KB Energy Services. I'm wondering if working on this project would preclude a firm from working on any subsequent projects that might arise from this planning process.
No, there wouldn't be any restriction.
Thank you.
Anything else from anybody?
Hey, Brian, if there's any minority DBE set aside type, is everything going to be out of Connecticut as far as certification of those folks?
That I'd have to get back. If you want to submit that one in writing, we could determine that. I have to talk to our procurement officer.
Okay.
And to that point, if you could all get your questions, and if something comes up after this session by Monday, because we have a rather expedited time frame on the procurement, and we want to get the answers to you by the 9th before submittal. So if you could submit your questions by Monday, it'd be helpful. And we'll log it, actually, Mark. Carly, if you could just log that question, and we could add it in the addendum that we plan to issue.
Yep, got it.
And your specific question, Mark, is regarding out-of-state DBEs. Can you rephrase that just so she could take that note?
Yeah, there's a lot of qualified people out there. We just didn't know if you were trying to target local, and we get that. So, if we were building a team, we may want to use some folks that are not certified in Connecticut, but we don't want to be excluded because we're using them. If you have a focus on, in the state, we get that.
Understood. Yeah, we'll get you an answer on that one.
Hey, while I'm at you, Brian, so I noticed there's like some probably hotspots that you guys are looking to monitor. Are you looking for suggestions to develop? And this is something we're doing. We're actually developing like a dashboard that actually can monitor things in real time with synthetic radar and some other stuff that you would want to maybe have put together in the future, but maybe outlined in this type of study.
Yeah, that's something we would be open to. I think one of the low hanging fruit that I was talking about is we're going to try to do some benchmarking in terms of outcomes, at least. So I think it's a little different than maybe what you're referring to in terms of a dashboard, but performance monitoring is something that we're definitely interested in moving forward.
Yeah.
Anything else from anybody? Any other questions, points of clarification we could help with?
I can ask another question about the fee. Sorry to go back to that again. So for an open-ended project, I feel like this could go very, very large, very, very small in terms of our what you can do with a undefined fee. I guess I'm wondering if there are any limits that you have in mind one way or another, or shoot, I had some other thought about that I lost through my question.
Yeah,
I guess if there's any other information that general order of magnitude that you have about that.
Yeah, we're not disclosing a fee, but I think what you could do is you could either make it scalable or offer some scenarios, in terms of how much technical assessment versus, optional items, adult items, things like that, where we could just kind of see where you're at with a preferred approach, and then it'll be negotiated from there. We're not disclosing the fee right now.
No, that sounds great. That was what I was going to ask, and then it slipped my mind. So that's perfect.
That's all
Thank
good.
you.
I think that's the best way. That'd be the best way for you to approach it. Because what we'll ultimately do, the next step, whoever the selected vendor is scope negotiations, and we'll be able to work out based within the context of our budget.
All right, thank you.
Yep. I will say, I think, in terms of what I've heard from the committee and in the CRB, we're looking for a very pragmatic document. I think some of the things that we've looked at before, like the Be Green 2020 plan that Bridgeport did, a while back, in addition with a more climate focus, looking at the CRB into that sort of scale and context. So not spending a lot of money on, existing conditions, technical reports. We're really trying to get down. We've ascertained sort of the functional need of the community and less justifying that versus actually implementing an action plan oriented work. I think that might be helpful to kind of pare back some of the universe of options. Anything from others? See, we strategically did this Friday afternoon because we knew you'd all be tired out from your work, so you wouldn't be asking all the questions. This is part of the plan. All right, good. We'll open it up one last time for any last questions that anyone has. As I said, you can submit anything that comes up after this through Monday. If you just get it to us by the end of the day, Monday, it'd be helpful because we want to get back to you as soon as we can. But we appreciate you all being here and looking forward to your proposals.
Thanks, Brian. Have a good weekend.
All right, take care.
Thank
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Ryan.
Take care. Bye.